We've got a juicer of an album to talk about next.
Good one.
Yeah,
I'll give you a clap.
Yeah, he gets one singular clap.
Yeah, I don't deserve it too.
Dance with their album Jackpot Juicer.
Anything inspired, colorful insinuations tend to be inflammatory. Don't expect to mind where you go tonight.
Just dance.
This is certainly a juicer of an 18-track album.
So, Jake, I want to get it out of the way for you. What songs did you save?
Cream of the Crop, Feels Bad
good.
Man, Die
Yes.
Another Day,
Yes.
and Pray to God for Your Mother.
Yes. Okay, 4 for 4. Good job, Jake. Good job.
That's pretty good, honestly.
That's a substantial list.
Only saved Holy Ghost Spirit.
Really? 18 tracks and that's it?
Damn, I'm higher on this than Justin, and it's still one of my bottom 5 albums of the year.
All right, you want to hear what I saved, Derek?
Sure.
Cream of the Crop, Synergy, Holy Ghost Spirit, For the Jeers, Ember, Pop Off, One Man Screens, Feels Bad Man,
He's just gonna list off the album.
Polka Dot, Dobbins, Long Nights in Jail, Back on Deck, Current Events, Pray to God for Your Mother, Swallowed by Eternity, Have a Great Life.
He really.
So this motherfucker just like the entire album. Okay, so in
No,
Jacob's
entitled too.
Okay, well, in typical Jacob fashion over the last 8 months, he's becoming more of me than I am because he saved more tracks than I did.
Hold on.
I'm holding.
I
Hold
this album, whatever day. I want to say the day it came out.
29.
3 or 4 times.
Oh, more times than I listen to it in general.
I've not gone back to it since. And
Yeah.
these are all on my playlist, and I just haven't really cleared out my and kept my favorites. So I enjoyed this album more than Afterburner. Ooh, actually, now that I say that, I think Afterburner has some higher moments, especially since there's Andrew Wells on that album. That just bumps
As
it up a little
opposed
bit more.
to what? The fucking 5 or 6 songs that have Andrew Wells on this album? He has 6 vocal features on this album, Jacob. What are you doing? What are you doing, man? You missed them all.
I probably only heard like 3 or maybe 4 of them. I can't tell you on what song they are, but they're there.
I'll pull up exactly
they're
the
absolutely
song.
there.
There's
I could
5 or
tell.
6 of them,
I
bro.
could tell when Andrew Wells was singing and not Tillian.
You know, I need to listen to this album and not be doing something at the same time.
Yep.
I also had a disadvantage because I tested positive for COVID about 6 hours before this album came out.
So he couldn't smell the album.
Yeah,
I'm so literate.
Okay. Are we ready, ladies and gentlemen? I want to qualify
Derek, the floor
what
is
I'm about
yours.
to say. After updating my last set of FM on my old Spotify plays, I have 13,000 plays on Dance Gavin Dance, and it is twice as much as Garden at number 2 at 6,500. So those are my qualifications. I've slapped my curriculum vitae on the table. I was very excited for an 18-track Dance Gavin Dance album. Because I thought that I was going to, based on the singles alone, I was going to get 18 tracks that I really enjoyed. They went 4 for 4 on singles. And I don't think it quite... What? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of on the fence at this point, but I liked it.
Okay.
I think that the album did not earn its runtime. And I think something that's very interesting to me is that I say with pretty much... I could grab Jake. Poor innocent Jake, who's never heard a Dance Gavin Dance album besides... I guess you listen to this in Afterburner, right? But like, yeah. But like, think back to like, I don't know, Mothership, Artificial Selection, any of the previous Tillian era albums, and I could sit you down and I could play you a song, and if I gave you like 1 or 2 reference points for each song off of the album, I could play you a song, and I bet with probably about 75 to 90% accuracy, you could place the correct songs on the correct albums. And what I mean by that is that every single album has a very distinct and specific sound to it, that even if the songs are all different and experiment with different things, you can place those songs based on their feel from the album, and you can nail it. I think that this album doesn't succeed in achieving the same, in that a song like, oh god, what is it? I can't even remember which one it is at this point. has a reference sonically and lyrically to Acceptance Speech, and it sounds like something off of Acceptance Speech. There are instrumental callbacks to Death of a Robot with Human Hair off of Acceptance Speech, or something off of Exposed, or yeah, the same kind of riff of Exposed off of Mothership. There are lyrical callbacks to Slouch off of Artificial Selection. And I think, because the closer to Artificial Selection, Evaporate, has a bunch of lyrical callbacks to different eras of Dance Gavin Dance, and I think that this does that same thing as a whole on the album, or tries to. And
I actually remember hearing the reference to Acceptance Speech, but I don't remember what song it's on either.
yeah, it's one. I think it might be One Man's Cringe. I'm not entirely positive.
Do the research for you.
I think my thing is that they're trying to do a lot on this album. This is the first album where Andrew Wells is an official sixth member. He composed Die Another Day and did a lot of instrumentation composition for other songs in this album. He provided a lot of vocal additions, and this to me feels more like a transitional album than anything else. This is almost like a self-title in the sense that it feels like they're making a statement of here's everything that we can do across 18 tracks. I don't think it always lands. There's a song like Two Secret Weapons, which is really boring for about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And then there's 40 seconds of John Mess at the end where he's like
And that's
singing
when I
along
stopped
to...
liking that song.
It's this whimsical instrumentation at the end that's like, okay, this is more like the Dance Gavin Dance that I know, but it took 3 minutes to get there and it doesn't sell me. You know, Polka Dot Dobbins, I think, is just boring and it almost feels out of place. It feels like something more off of Instant Gratification than this album. Ember, I think, is a great example of Tillian's vocal range and is also ridiculously overproduced. And I think that that's my biggest gripe with this album as a whole, is that it feels like it loses a lot of the integrity of a Dance Gavin Dance album in exchange for incredible production and the way that the guitars go back and forth in your ears. It's great for like one or two songs, but I get to listening to it and I'm like, you know, if you evict, at least for me, Ember, Two Secret Weapons, and Polka Dot Dobbins from this album off the rip, and then I'd also probably take out Current Events and One Man's Cringe, you've got a 13-track album, more traditional length, that's perfect and is the easiest album of the year lock I've ever heard, maybe ever, because I think songs like Cream of the Crop as an opener, or Holy Ghost Spirit just in general, or Have a Great Life as a closer, which is arguably one of, if not my favorite closer of any Dance Gavin Dance album at this point. The way that we've got Andrew both singing and screaming at the end, along with Tillian singing and John screaming, it's incredible.
I think Cream of the Crop as the opener is, like, as a single I didn't really enjoy, but hearing it tagged on to Untitled 2 and then as the opener,
having the first lyrics be "Hey You."
I'm actually
you know.
torn between Cream of the Crop and Die Another Day as my favorite on this album.
Both are really
I think
good.
like I'm not the biggest fan of Dance Gavin Dance, obviously, but I think both of those songs are like competing with each other for like they're both just really solid. They're solid songs. I enjoy listening to both of them.
I also appreciate the fact that we got Untitled 2, which is the first intro track to a Dance Gavin Dance album in 15 years, which is a follow-up to the other one, which is called Untitled. So they really kind of were very on the nose with that. I want to give a lot of, especially some of the experimentation here works. And I think the effect on Tillian's vocals in the chorus of Long Nights in Jail, the production on Pray to God for Your Mother works really well, especially. I think Feels Bad Man is probably my favorite song on the album, just with John's more melodic uncleans. I think John is really the unsung hero of this album in the sense that it feels like his uncleans have leveled up and there's a lot more variation that I'd almost would expect on something like a Secret Band album rather than specifically on Dance Gavin Dance. And I feel like Tillian's solo material as well, especially that most recent album Factory Reset, has kind of leaked its way into the way that he approached this, both in lyrical matter and just the way that he sounds. And I think also, too, the lyrical substance in Swallowed by Eternity or Have a Great Life, it's very melancholy and like very reflect on your own life type of thing. And I haven't heard anything like that since Man of the Year dropped as the closer on Mothership. I think Dance Gavin Dance continues their trend of having an incredible second to last song that could easily serve as the closer and then somehow making the closer better. They've done it for like the past however many albums.
Into the Sunset is better than Nothing Shameful.
I think it is. I think if you flip them, it wouldn't work as well. But I've also listened to Afterburner an unholy amount of times. So
What album?
yeah, right. I don't know. I think for me, it's just that this could have been a 13-track album for me, like a normal Dance Gavin Dance length, and I think that's the most frustrating part for me is that I don't want to listen to this as a whole without skipping something, and I don't really do that for a lot of Dance Gavin Dance albums. I think most of them are flawless, and I love this band, and I want to love songs, and it's not even like I skip it because I'm indifferent. I'm like actively not enjoying Two Secret Weapons and Polka Dot Dobbins, and something about the composition of Ember, it doesn't hit the way that I want it to. I think some of the lyrics
shortening the track. I think you could take out Holy Ghost Spirit for the Jeers, Ember, and pop off, and I enjoy this album a lot more actually.
I don't know about all that, but,
right, but at the same time, for me personally, Dance Gavin Dance is a band that takes a while for me to enjoy, especially with new material, and it takes lots of listens for me to really get into it.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me is that I would agree. I usually get most of their songs on first listen. I think Holy Ghost Spirit was one that I didn't like, and it's now probably a top 3 song on the album for me. I've just given, because I'm so upset that I don't like the songs, I've gone back and listened to the ones I don't like so many times, and it's just not clicking. And it's really frustrating because I want to love this more than I do, but we're living in a world where, like, if Garden drops a really good album, a Dance Gavin Dance album doesn't even crack my top 5 of the year. Which is a weird reality for me to be living in, and I don't really know how to process it because it's like my favorite album of all time.
Rain City Drive drops album of the year 2020 and isn't even in my top 10 right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you like 4 songs off this album, Jake, so we're already in a weird parallel universe.
I like more songs off of this album than Afterburner, but I think Lyrics Lie and 3 Wishes are better than anything on here. Albeit those are the only 2 songs I still like from that album, but
I guess ultimately to like wrap things up, because I don't want to drown on or draw out too much, and I promised you I wouldn't, is that I think that there's a lot of experimentation on here, more so than any other album that they've done. I think it works really well in some areas and doesn't in others, and ultimately what that leads to is the album kind of losing the sense of identity that I feel like all their other Tillion era albums, and frankly all their albums in general, have had a distinct identity album to album. This lacks that, and instead feels like an kind of a amalgamation of all of what was previously done, compiled with some new stuff, and not necessarily in a way that lends itself to the album. I'm still going to spin constantly all my favorite songs off of this, which is another 11 to 13 tracks, you know, so that's fine, but I'm not as sad. I was hoping for an 18-track album that I could love every track on and play at least once a day, like I did with Afterburner when it dropped, and it didn't hit that mark.